Namaste and good evening, our distinguished speakers, Mr. Rachel Bakheri, Dr. Ketan Patel, and Mr. Parag Desai, our dear friend Dr. Jaimin Vasa, Dr. Savan Godiawala, invited guests, our members of AMA GC Council and subcommittees, and ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this special program which for MSMEs, which we are holding under the auspices of the Dr. Jaimin Vasa AMS Center for MSME Development Center, which focuses on programs targeted to MSMEs in different functional areas. Gujarat, being an entrepreneurial state, has many examples of success stories, entrepreneurial ventures, and each, charting their own course in a very different style. And we are indeed very fortunate to get these three speakers today, very much from Ahmedabad, and I'm sure it will be a great take-home for all. And I'm really grateful to all these three guests for sparing their time this evening and sharing their thoughts and talking about the innovative marketing tools for SME growth. So I don't want to take any of your more time because we are keen to listen to the speakers. So in the meantime, I'll request Dr. Jaimin Vasa to introduce the speakers, and thereafter Dr. Savan Godiawala will coordinate the event. Thank you so much.
Very good evening. Dear President Divyesh Bhai, Vice President Savan Bhai, my respected friends Achal Bhai, Ketan Bhai, and Parag Bhai, office bearers of the Ahmedabad Management Association, GC Council, Executive Secretary of AMA, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Friends, SMEs, as you know, are the growth engine of the Indian economy, and as many as 63.4% millions units combines contribute 6.11% of the manufacturing GDP and 24.63% of services GDP. Of course, the SMEs are playing a very vital role, very important role for the contribution of country's economy. At the same time, SMEs are also facing many challenges, especially in adapting their strategies and marketing management's capabilities in terms of marketing research, marketing strategy, planning, and implementation, which are playing the key role in SME's performance and in growth. The existing marketing strategies reached at some saturation point. There are new innovative strategies are required to be infiltrated. To make it happen, we have started with the support of AMA, the various SME growth series by which we can educate SME the various means and tools for their growth and development. Under this series, we will take different factors which are affecting and supporting the growth of the SMEs, and the first event of this series is innovative marketing tools for SME growth. As per my experience, if your product is good in quality, if your product has a good market, but you are not good in developing the good strategies, so there is definitely a problem of your growth. So that is the reason we need to educate SME for various activities. We know that many known branded products and companies started their business in a small way, and now their products and companies are well-known brands in the society. Dear friends, today we are fortunate to have three stalwarts of not only Ahmedabad but for Gujarat and for the nation. C. Achal Bakeri, the Chairman and Managing Director of Symphony Limited, Dr. Ketan Patel, Managing Director, Troika Laboratories, and Mr. Parag Desai, Executive Director, Wagh Bakri Tea Group. They are being successful by using innovative marketing strategies, and they had achieved phenomenal growth. While introducing these speakers, Mr. Achal Bakeri had returned to India after completing his Masters in Business Administration at the University of Southern. He had planned to enter the family's property business, but he quickly changed his mind and career path after he got an epiphany that summer, as Mr. Achal Bakeri's family had moved to at that time to the new house in Ahmedabad. Parts of this new house could not be air conditioned as they had a long passage and high ceilings. Architects suggested he to use air coolers as an economical way of combating with the heat. It prompted Achal to set up the air cooler company with a seed capital of only 1 lakh borrowed from his father in February 1988. Achal Bhai found a comfortable niche for symphony for a while. The company seems to be a steady course. After a while, in 2002, his company started to falter and company was about to go bankrupt. But Mr. Achal Bakeri's timely decision and his innovative ideas, today his Bombay Stock Exchange listed company in the world's biggest producer of air coolers, selling 1.2 million units annually in 60 countries. After that, Mr. Bakeri has learned the hard way that even the best laid path can crumble. His confidence is enormous. Dear friends, our other experts, Troika Pharmaceutical was founded in 1983 by Shri Rajinibai Patel, father of Dr. Ketan Patel, Chairman and Managing Director of Troika. Shri Rajinibai Patel is one of the few pharmacy graduates of the first batch of LM College of Pharmacy, Ahmedabad. Troika started with the modest investment of rupees 8 lakhs, and Dr. Ketan Patel has steered Troika Pharma towards becoming a significant player in the Indian pharma industry. Troika means Russian carriage pulled by a team of 3 horses. The word traces its origin of the Russian word tro, which means a set of 3. The company was thus named Troika, which represents their 3 key driving forces. One is innovation, quality, and services. Their steadfast vision laid the foundation to Troika receiving immense recognition across the globe. Dear friends, in 1982, an Indian entrepreneur, Sri Narandas Desai, set up his era tea business with 500 acres of tea estate in Durban, South Africa. During that time, South Africa was also reeling under the colonial rule like India. Due to his rising success, he faced more racism, and the political unrest in the area eventually forced him to leave that country. That was good for us. The history of Wagh Bakri is unlike any other. Sri Narandas Desai, after returning from South Africa, took a large loan to establish Gujarat Tea Depot in the 1919. Wagh Bakri Tea Depot communicates the message of social equality with its iconic logo. A company who created to protest against the racial discrimination and inspired by the Mahatma Gandhi. And despite 100 years legacy, a tea brand still remains fairly young and continues challenging the other brands of the country. Dear friends, I'm sure our three experts, Achal Bakeri, Kitan Patel, and Parag Desai, will share their real life stories and will help us, means SME, like us, to design our marketing strategies for the growth and development of our company. Once again, thank you all for patient hearing, and I welcome you all for this wonderful seminar, and thank you experts for being here. सावन भाई अरे दिवेश भाई and अरे भाई to our president I'm the host, yes, my president.
Please, sound. Yeah. Thank you, Jamin bhai. Thank you, Divyesh bhai. And absolutely thanks to all of you for such a overwhelming response to this. And I know it was there. Yesterday, Unmesh bhai calls me that would you be willing to come tomorrow? I said it is written in my diary since the day the program is done, and I was supposed to be there somewhere here. I'm fortunate that I can sit with these stalwarts, as the earlier speaker said. So my role is nothing. Don't worry. I'm not going to bore anything with my ideas or my thoughts. We are going to ask the stalwarts to, what good topic, a special session, a special topic, and certainly the most special speakers that we have today, and on innovative marketing tools, which I think is something which, as Jamin bhai said, very important for the SMEs. SMEs cannot afford to go to the McKinseys of the world for the strategy. And here there is an experience, there is already a story, a success story about how the branding has happened. I'll not take a lot of time, but I must certainly tell something that, like, if we look at Symphony, and Jaimin bhai has already mentioned what Symphony is, where from 88 till now, and ups and downs, and the wealth creator, I would say, on the stock market, as well as the brand that it has. But that punchline says thinking of tomorrow, right? If I mistake not. Thinking, so the right from day one, the thinking is innovation, and where we are talking about Ketan bhai's punchline, imagine, innovate, if I mistake not, right, sir? Imagine, innovate, and that's the fundamental of the. So when I'm talking about, and of course the T group 1892, what do we say? 1892, in 1919, 100-year celebration was done before 4 years, and continuous innovation that we are seeing either in branding, packaging, product, diversifying into countries, and that is what today we are here to listen to the three speakers who have been the successful stories of the city. May I, as a format, sir, and of course this is a different time that today we had, because we wanted to have a longer session, because 6:30 to 7:30 will not do justice to have these three gentlemen over here. So what I would like to do, sir, is that I will give you some time on your own that you can give your story, communicate on what were the thought process behind how you brought the company from where to where, and give some views, ideas about, and then we can get into question answer session after that. Each of you take as much time that you want. So maybe you can use that microphones. We can start with Achal Bhai. However you're comfortable. And yes, if there is a presentation, I don't know, then that also can be presented. Yes. So we can start with Achal Bhai. Achal Bhai, if you don't mind. Thank you. Yeah, not Charles. Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. And really, honestly, this is overwhelming. I was asking Jaimin Bhai, do you expect people to come? It's 5 o'clock on a working day. And this is really a very, very pleasant surprise to all of us. So, I'm not a marketing guru. I'm not going to give a yarn on the theory of marketing. For that, you have to go across the street. But I can only share my own experience and what I have learned during the last 35 years of being, an entrepreneur. So first of all, marketing is not fully understood properly. I think, many times people mistake marketing to be advertising. So advertising is one part of it, but I think marketing is a much broader term. And I think fundamentally marketing begins with the right product or service. So your product or service, if it is something which you believe consumers would want, I think that is the first, I would say, step in marketing. Because unless you have a product which consumers want or could possibly want, how do you market? Many a times that want or that need could be latent. It might not really be evident. But that is really what an entrepreneur does. He or she tries to be, and I have to be politically correct, there are many ladies here too. So he or she tries to understand, what a consumer may possibly want, and then develops a product or a service that caters to that need. If I were to sort of talk about my own experience, as in my glowing introduction, for which I should also thank Jaimin Bhai. He mentioned the whole journey of Symphony began because our family had moved into a house which needed air cooling for some parts which could not be air conditioned. And at that time, back then, the coolers which were available in the country looked horrible. They were very big. They made a lot of noise. They were ugly. They rusted. So from that was born the idea of why can't somebody make a better air cooler? And again, back then, owning an air cooler was very aspirational. Owning an air conditioner was very aspirational. So the thought was, why don't we develop an air cooler which looks like an air conditioner? Now, that itself is something which, I'll take a pause for a minute. Our Ashish Bhai. So as I was saying, owning an air conditioner was very aspirational. So we developed a product which looked like an air conditioner. So that was a sort of a discovery of sorts. We assumed that there was a latent need to own an air conditioner, but everyone could not afford an air conditioner. And there is 35 years ago. Today, I'm sure most people in this room would have air conditioners at home. But back then, owning an air conditioner was really out of reach of most people. So we developed a product which looked like an air conditioner, although it costed only about 4,000 rupees, when an air conditioner at that time costed more than 30,000 rupees. So there was a product for which I felt as an entrepreneur that there was a need. So it was a latent need. It wasn't, nobody told us, and probably had we done market research, also it would not have come up, because no customer could have imagined an air cooler that looks like an air conditioner. In fact, Steve Jobs famously said that a customer doesn't know what she wants, and that is really true. Most times customers don't really know what he or she wants. It is the company or the entrepreneur which has to develop a product and sometimes create the demand for it. But with this product, because it was a consumer product, we were very clear that we needed to establish our brand. So from the day one, we had gone to Mudra at that time, Mudra Communications, which was the advertising agency of based in Ahmedabad, owned by Reliance. It was the agency which created the Only Vimal campaign and so on and so forth. And they were in Ahmedabad. So from even before the company was introduced, we went to Mudra Communications. And our first ad in 35 years ago was a full page ad. Now, the budget of that ad was more than the value of the inventory that I had to sell. So I had only 6 coolers to sell. It was 24,000 rupees. And at that time, the cost of that ad, full page ad in the Times of India, was 1.5 lakhs of rupees. So that was a bit of I would say, a bit of a risk. But at the same time, a back of the envelope calculation suggested to me that we only had to sell so many coolers to recover our ad spend. And fortunately, that one ad hit the right nerve, and it generated enough demand for us to be able to sell whatever we could produce in that first summer. The story goes on for the next few years. Every year, our advertising budget was greater than the previous year's turnover. In the summer of 1990, the third year of our existence, we went onto the national network on television. And at that time, television was very simple. It wasn't so complex as it is today, where you have 1,000 channels and OTT and God knows what else. You had only Doordarshan. You went onto Doordarshan, you took Mahabharat or Chitrahar, one of those programs, and the whole country watched. So we went on one of those programs, and by the summer of 1990, Symphony had become a household brand. Now, before we embarked on this campaign, and this campaign back then, if I remember right, costed us about 3 crores of rupees. But the previous year's turnover was only 1 crore. But I knew that to recover the 3 crores, we had to sell so many coolers, and we did. So that 3 crores of advertising generated for us, if I remember right, about 11-12 crores of turnover, and we recovered our ad spend. So every year in the beginning, our ad spend, our ad budget was greater than the previous year's turnover, but that led to a multiple sort of growth whereby we could recover, what we had spent. Now, of course, story goes on, and times weren't always good, but that is not part of the theme of this today's sort of meeting. Jaimin Bhai touched upon it. There was a time when the company was bankrupt. We were what is used to be then called a BIFR company, but that is not really a part of today's thing. We're talking about marketing, so we're talking about happier things today. So, as I said, so advertising is just one part of marketing, and advertising is in many forms. You have television, you have press, you have outdoor. These days you have social media, digital, God knows what else, so every kind of advertising. You've got below the line advertising, which is, where you have posters in trade showrooms and so on and so forth. But fundamentally, marketing is finding the right message which communicates your product or services unique idea to something which a consumer could possibly want. So I think, and how do you communicate that? There are various forms of communication. That's what I just spoke about. But like I said, conceptually, marketing is what is something unique about what you are offering, and how do you communicate that and connect that with something which a consumer could potentially want. So over the years, after our first air cooler, which looked like an air conditioner, which is something which really sort of triggered that entire sort of wave of sales in the early years. From there on, We went on to coolers which were space saving, because we felt that the next phase of growth for smaller homes and for cities like Bombay and Calcutta, where people lived in smaller apartments, where you needed space saving. So we had a range of coolers which saved space. From there on, in about 2000 or so, air conditioners were becoming less expensive, and people were saying, "Oh my God, what's going to happen to air coolers? Why would anybody buy an air cooler when air conditioners are becoming inexpensive?" That is when we changed our line to the energy saving aspect of our air coolers, where we spoke about Desh ki bijli bachao kind of a thing, and emphasized on how energy saving our products are, and the total cost of ownership of an air cooler being much less than air conditioners is what we spoke about. Then even during the lockdown years of the summer of 2020, most recently, when there was no advertising otherwise possible, we had this entire omni-channel thing. So we had our campaign was about dial a cooler. So customer who was locked up at home, and there were showroom owners who had inventory and their showrooms were locked. How do you connect the two? So we had this dial a cooler campaign. So essentially, it's all about marketing or advertising, and advertising being one of the components of marketing, is all about identifying a need and fulfilling that need. These days, as Savan Bhai said, we're talking about the environment, and that's becoming a very big thing. And not only in India, we needed a message, a unified message, which resonated with consumers across the world. And today we have, Symphony has subsidiaries in the US, in Mexico, in Australia, China, and Brazil. And then, of course, we sell in other parts of the world. So we needed a message which, like I said, resonated with consumers across the spectrum. And the environment and the concern for environment is really something which is very big these days. And so that's something which we are working on aggressively on, and which is why our message has moved to pivoted to thinking of tomorrow, or Kal Ki Soch in India. And in where we speak about how environmentally friendly our product is, our manufacturing processes are, and all of that. So that's another subject altogether. But we essentially have to sort of move to that. Now, marketing is not only for B2C brands or B2C products, not just because, we are into air coolers, which is a B2C product, or Wagh Bakri makes tea. So it's not just for a consumer product, or Troika makes pharmaceuticals. It's really is, I think it is a stand which any business entity can or should take, because that is something which, represents what your company or your entity stands for. It could be manifested through various forms. It could start with, again, the name of the organization. For example, okay, Wagh Bakri has a distinct name. It has a history to it. There is a reason why it is what it is, but it is a distinct name. It is unique, and it is something which will forever remain etched in people's minds, or Troika for that matter, or even our own company. So it stands for something. Symphony, there have been multiple reasons why we named our company Symphony, and I've been asked this many times, why Symphony? So one reason is, our family's projects have always started with S, real estate projects. I'd wanted a company brand which started with S. Moreover, I'd wanted a company or a name which was more international. It was not just a Sanskrit name which only made sense in India, but it's something which would be understood across the world. And so of a various list of names, long list of names, we sort of picked this name. Of course, it also had to sound good. It had to have a nice meaning and all of that. But so essentially, it all starts with the name, of the enterprise. I mean, you might have a name like, pick a name, let's say Jai Jagdamba, but it has to make sense for the product that you are selling. It may be very good for certain applications, but it will not be something which will be right everywhere. And maybe in today's modern times, it might not really strike the right chord. So you have to make sure that, you have the right name. And then, of course, because that is essentially how your company or your entity, your business enterprise is going to be perceived. And then, how the whole thing is projected, your brand identity, your company identity, your logo, your communication, your everything, and these days, having a website is the simplest thing to do, and I think it's a basic thing that everybody does, and it's a great leveler, because whether it's Jai Jagdamba Enterprises website or whether it is Tesla's website, all of them have the same real estate, that same screen. So it's a great leveler. So that is something which I think is these days a very basic stuff that people do. And again, but advertising also is a double-edged sword, because advertising draws attention to you, and it draws attention and draws competitors. So at times, you have to decide to maybe just go slow, sort of fly under the radar. And at times you have to advertise aggressively to claim the first mover advantage, to claim that mind space. So it's a judgment call which an entrepreneur has to take. But like I said, it invites competition, but then competition is inevitable, mostly in life. Yeah. But as long as your product or service has a unique selling proposition, it's unique, it's differentiated, it's something which is something which you sort of stand for, then that is something which you capitalize on. And if you have a niche, if you're a specialist, for example, in our case, the air cooling industry in the world is not a huge industry, but it's a niche. And so we have sort of, I would say, we stand for that niche. That niche is where we belong. And then there is also a saying that, niches bring riches, or riches are in niches. So there are all these sayings. So I think if you have a specific product, if you have a niche which you sort of stand for, then you sort of, make sure you remain there and don't vacate that space. And at end of the day, you're not selling a product, you have to sell a solution. A solution which fulfills a certain need, like I said. So that's what I'm ending my talk with. But most importantly, advertising or even the overall marketing spend can be viewed, or should be viewed, not as an expense as many people do, but as an investment. And as a matter of fact, in our case, we have not even viewed it as an investment. We viewed it as raw material. That is the one which sort of fuels the sales. It is as important in the case of consumer products as anything else is. Unless, of course, somebody is blessed like the Desai family. Every morning you wake up, you just have to have Wagh Bakri tea. You don't need to be advertised that you have to have Wagh Bakri. But ordinary mortals like us, we have to advertise. And please do, Rashesh bhai. Haji. Unique thing, it was a unique idea. Thank you. So Rashesh bhai here, who is from the Wagh Bakri family, Parag bhai's father, and I've known him for a long time, and I respect him immensely. So he remembers something which he juggled my memory, and nearly 30 years ago, in the early 90s, we I know, right? So we had created this sort of structure near Law Garden at that temple, Samartheshwar Mahadev, and it was a huge thing. And in that, people could come in, and in there we were displaying not only our products, but we were explaining how an air cooler works. So in those days, at least in Ahmedabad, people did not even know how an air cooler works. So we had to actually explain, how the technology works, how it cools, what it does, how it is to be used. It is not to be used like an air conditioner, like we are sitting here, everything is closed. An air cooler requires, movement of air. So it has to be ventilated. The space has to be ventilated. So the basics of air cooling is what we had to explain at that time.
You also consulted University Plaza also.
Well, that was a long time ago. That was just a sort of a digression. You're right. Thank you very much. Thank you. But like I said, we had to do all this explaining how an air cooler works and all that because the concept was unknown. Like I said, we have to sell our product. We have to market our product. You don't have to do that with tea, especially with Wagh Bakri tea. And if somebody falls ill, they have to buy pharmaceuticals, and Troika has some of the best. So they really don't need to advertise. They don't need to market. Yeah.
We have to diversify either into pharma or tea.
So with that, thank you very much. Pleasure.
Ketan bhai, you want to? Yeah, I think there's a PowerPoint already loaded.
Follow my
અહીંયા ક્યાંક ટીવી મૂકવા જેવું કઈ નહીં. તો આમાંથી જોઈન કરવાનું છે એટલે યા So, very good evening to all of you. Pharmaceutical marketing is extremely complex, and most people won't be able to relate to what is pharmaceutical marketing. But I will take off on a core concept, which actually Achal bhai mentioned, to figure out the need of the customer. So you understand the mindset of the customer, and thereafter, whether he is aware of it or not, you activate that. So that is known as the golden circle concept. I read about this concept about 2 decades ago, and pleasantly was surprised that we had been more or less adopting this concept of golden circle. And it is very easy, and it is at the heart of marketing, because the first thing you need to do is to understand and determine what kind of messages you want to give to the customer and what those messages should contain. So 20th century is an era of innovations. Everybody knows that. The most extraordinary among them was the aeroplane. So 2 teams were working on it. One was the Wright brothers, and second was Mr. Langley. The Wright brothers, they were successful, even though none of the team members had, including themselves, any college education. They were funding the project from their own small bicycle shop earnings. Media ignored them. And this is their competitor, Mr. Langley. He was unsuccessful, even though he was a scientist with education from Harvard. He was given $50,000 by the War Department for this project because he was influential. He hired the greatest engineers, and his research was followed by news media all the time, like what happens today with the research of Tesla or Apple. So it is a fact that Mr. Langley failed, and therefore the Wright brothers are credited with the most important discovery of the century. So why did this happen? Why is it that only some leaders inspire people, and why others like Langley cannot inspire? And why only some organizations are successful and others are struggling? So the answer lies in the approach to business. It's a very simple approach, 3 words: what, how, and why. So what is a what about? It is most of us, we know what we want to do. For example, if I hear from a friend that spinning industry is very good, and you put X number of shuttles, you will get this much amount of profits. So the what more or less is not well thought out. It's hearsay, and you want to, people look at others who've been successful or others who launch good products and copy them out. Like Mr. Achal bhai said, sometimes better to be below the radar, because there are always people who want to
who don't know the what, but they'll adopt the what from someone else. How, again, if you're a tech entrepreneur, you know how to do things, or you hire consultants who will teach you how to manufacture a product or render a service. And the why is, obviously we are in Gujarat, it's always about profits. કેટલા પૈસા કમાવા છે એના પર બધાનો ધંધો ચાલતો હોય છે ખાસ. So the approach is પહેલા શું બનાવીશું, કઈ રીતે બનાવીશું, કેટલા પૈસા મળશે. So that's called the outside in approach. Now this is the mundane approach, and vis-a-vis that I'll show you how the golden circle works. So ordinary people think, act and communicate from outside in, like I explained. કશેકથી ખબર પડે કે આ બનાવવા જેવી છે, પૈસા છે આપણી પાસે, બનાવી નાખો. Whereas extraordinary people, inspired people think, act and communicate from inside out. And that it's the inside out which is going to address the customer. So as I said, why, inside, how, middle and out is what. This approach is in sync with the biological process of the human brain. And that is why this approach works all the time. So if you look at the human brain, it has a neocortex, which is the outer part of the brain, and the limbic brain, which is the central part inside of the brain. So you have an out and you have an in. The neocortex is responsible for rational, analytical thought and language. The limbic brain is all about emotions. It is responsible for feelings, trust, loyalty, behavior, and decision making. Make a note, all these are what you want to target if you want to sell something. You have to sell, you can't only give logic or analysis. You have to address this with the limbic brain. So the brain corresponds to the golden circle. When we communicate inside out, that is the why. Then we are talking directly to that part of the brain that controls behavior and decision making, and that is the limbic region. So importance of starting from the why. When you move from outside in, you are simply following the same thing that everyone is doing. You start with the what and follow the crowd. But when you move from inside out, you are empowering yourself and being remarkable because it's your own idea. You are thinking of what emotion or what kind of a faculty of the customer will appeal to the customer. And Symphony is a classic example because what he said about air conditioner, air cooler looking like an air conditioner is exactly that. The customer may not have known that there can be an air cooler like this, but he was convinced that for self-esteem, if a person could install an air cooler which looks like an air conditioner, it should work. After that, of course, marketing takes over and activates that concept. So this is also proven by this incidence of discovery of the aircraft. So Wright brothers, they believed that if they could make a flying machine, they could change the course of the world. The purpose was larger. Because they were having cycle shop. The vision was that I want that human being should fly. So it was addressing the why was that can people be made to fly, because then there'll be a lot of advantages. So he had a team which also believed in that dream. In the golden circle, the team is very important. I'll explain that later. The team worked with blood, sweat, and tears for one objective, that is how to build an aircraft. Successfully develop the aircraft, and that is the what they had targeted. Whereas Mr. Langley, by making an aeroplane, he wanted to become rich and famous, which is a common syndrome. Most of the time, people want to become rich and famous, and they're not passionate about what they are doing. Had a team of qualified engineers who didn't have any purpose other than the paycheck, were working by conventional outside-in approach, and ultimate result was failure. So for our company, we have therefore laid out a mission which is shared at all the locations in the company. So the why of doing business is we start with the why, to achieve a prominent position in the pharmaceutical industry by gaining recognition of the medical profession by providing valuable solutions to health care of the society. So solutions have to be valuable, which means we would refrain from merely copying things out. We must strive to meet the demands of our goals by specifically focusing on the three fundamentals of excellence: innovation, quality, and service, which are enshrined in our logo as well. Our quest for excellence must encompass all aspects of business. It is not just restricted to production or manufacturing. It's all aspects of business you have to excel. Only then you can appeal to your customer very effectively. So there's a brief animation which explains that we don't copy, we think different. Wherever the crowd goes, we try to avoid, and usually you may end up with niches, which Achal Bhai said, but he's right actually, niches have the riches. And it is easier to attack the market when you start with niche. As you grow, then you can pick up bigger market segments and build the company. So we have 376 patents. We've been very passionate about intellectual property. And let me tell you that it's not been the most rewarding, because in pharmaceutical product, if you want to innovate, the lead time from conceptualization to giving birth to a product can be anywhere between 5 to 8 years. So if I come out with one innovative product, you have to understand that I have incubated it for so many years, got the proof of concept because it's something first time in the world, and then conveyed the message to the doctors to make it a success. Sometimes the doctors don't accept it. Your best innovation may fail. So this ever-increasing thirst for breakthrough research comes from an important belief: to provide best quality and safe and efficacious medicines to society through innovation. These are some of the technologies which we have developed in the last 2.5 decades. Each of the technology was developed adhering to the philosophy of the golden circle. Why should we make a particular product? So it would answer or fill up a gap left by the other medicines and other companies, and therefore your product would shine out because it serves a purpose for the doctor. Each technology bridges the gap left by available therapies. So we got the patent awards and all. I'll straight away go to the example. The first example is, of course, the Symphony air cooler. Now, this is a bit more complex, so I'm relying again and again on it. Existing gaps in therapy of diclofenac injections. Now, diclofenac injections are the gold standard for treating pain. You have severe pain, maybe in the due to a renal kidney stone or trauma, fracture, injury, or after surgery. The drug of choice is diclofenac injections, and a multinational company was marketing it in a 3 ml version, which was causing a lot of muscle damage. It also had a solvent, propylene glycol, which also added to the pain. And embarrassment, because it could not be given in the arm, it had to be given in the buttock. Now, this was a Novartis brand. Now, someone would think that how can we think beyond Novartis? But if you try to find out the gaps, you may pick out a gap. Not always, but sometimes. And here we picked up a gap, that this was 3 ml, too much volume being injected, a very bad solvent in it, and as a result, had to be given in the buttock. So embarrassment for the patient. So we made Dynapar AQ. This was our first product. And here's the why, how, and what. So if you read the why, administration of conventional diclofenac 75 mg 3 ml injections induced pain at the site of injection due to muscle damage and presence of solvents. Embarrassment to the patient because its administration only by the intragluteal, that means the buttock root. This had to be removed. So how did we do that? We achieved a breakthrough process by dedicated efforts to provide the complete aqueous solution in just 1 ml of injection solution. So instead of 3 ml, the volume was reduced to 1 ml, and the solution was aqueous. So the painful solvent was also removed. So that took birth as Dynapar AQ, which is aqueous, has less volume, and can be given in the intradeltoid region. And it became the world's first diclofenac 75 mg per ml. When we marketed the product, initially the doctors were refusing to believe that this is a genuine product, because Indian companies normally are known to copy. So our sales force was quite overwhelmed with questions by the doctors. आपने कैसे बनाया? नोवार्टिस को नहीं आता ये बना, आपने में कुछ गड़बड़ है. And Novartis, to add to the injury, they had taken out a kind of a certificate without a letterhead saying that this Dynapar had got this impurity and that impurity and it was unsafe. And the doctor used to ask us, ये company ये बोल रहा है. So then we had to train our people to tell the doctor कि सर ये letter पे लेके आओ, फिर हम देखते हैं. Anyways, but from that I learned that the trust, which I said, the limbic brain was not there. And you can't blame the customer why he doesn't trust an Indian company. He knows that he's categorized that multinationals are always going to come out with new things. Indian companies will come out with the same thing cheaper. So if you have to break that, you have to build trust. So in our business, building trust can only happen through clinical trials. Now, 25 years ago, undertaking clinical trials was also very difficult. There were no contract research organizations. Today we have them and they take the trials on our behalf. So we set up a small medical team and collaborated with 6 hospitals across India and brought out 6 clinical trials, each of them showing the distinct superiority of Dynapar AQ over the multinational brand Overrun injection. That tilted the scale, and our sales started matching with Novartis. And they then called us that they would like to license out this product. So we went in a lot of hope because we were aware that we had a smaller marketing force. We had just about 200 medical reps. Novartis had got 450. So we thought our footprint can increase. So let's go. But when we went, the kind of pricing they asked for the licensing was ridiculously low. So we said that we are not here for a generic. This is protected by a patent. He said, so what? Kitna bechoge aap? That is not the question. You as a company should appreciate that you are going to make money from this. He said, no, hamara to fir bhi bikega. And they were right in their arrogance because the doctors were still prescribing Voveran. 60% of the doctors. So we came back and we decided that we go all out now. So I recruited another 100 medical reps. And then we went up for a full attack. In the next 3 years, we captured 80% of the market share. So, because now the doctors had started believing that this is a tremendous product, their limbic system had been attacked very well by us. So then Novartis was too ashamed to come back to us. They went hand in glove with an small Indian company, and to avoid our patent, they tweaked the formula. And in doing so, they did make a product which is looking like Dynapar AQ, but the additive used, one of the additives, was prohibited for use in injections. And now I'll tell you about how multinationals, how ruthless they are. Today we read about Pfizer and all, but I got to know this about 10 years ago. I wrote a letter to Novartis, Switzerland, that your Indian subsidiary is making a product which has got an additive which is prohibited for use in injections. So in their arrogance, they never replied to me. They passed on the letter to their Indian CEO. And he wrote back to me that we are multinational, operating globally. Our philosophy is never to break any law, blah, blah, blah. And in any case, we are not manufacturing the product. We are getting it made with a small company. Indian company has got a license for that. So I wrote back to him that even if you're distributing it, the current laws of the land directs you to alert the regulator on the product because of what I'm pointing out. They never replied. We lodged a complaint to the government of India. And I could see the kind of power Novartis had. An expert committee was set up. The committee ruled that this product has to go. It's not safe. And the licenses have to be cancelled. So the licenses got cancelled. But within 1 week, the licenses were reactivated. Yeah. So I didn't know what to do. And I had never been to Delhi for licensing because we do innovations. I don't need to go to bureaucrats and get any kind of favors. So, but I realized that I have to build bridges. And then the drug controller general himself, he started putting pressure on me. Compromise kar lo. किसका compromise करेगा? You are compromising the Indian health of the Indian patients. This additive is toxic to the kidney. It is reported in literature. Our textbooks say that it cannot be used, and you want us to compromise? नहीं, कुछ होता नहीं है patient को. That was the argument. The fools didn't realize that kidney damage, when it happens, you don't feel anything. That is why so many kidneys are lost. Unlike an injury where you feel pain, kidney damage happens silently. So then I went to the Delhi High Court because I saw the whole system was against us. And finally, Delhi High Court passed an order and banned their product. So that, thank you. And then even those few doctors who are still supporting Govran with that colonial mindset that we have, they all changed, and we made Dynapariki the biggest brand in the country, and also we sell it to almost 42 countries under the same patent. Yes. Yeah. You have, for the innovation, it has to be unique all over the world. The examiner of patent will check all the international literature. There are softwares to check it out. So when they put the search terms, they come to know this is genuine or not. Then they'll also shoot you queries, and then you have to defend yourself, and then you're granted the patent. But that process you have to do in every country separately. So we have a pan-globe network of attorneys who handle our patents. So this is how Dynapariki qualifies for the inside out. And this is the second one. So muscle pain, all of you know, you apply this move, release spray, Olini. And I started having a kind of pain in my sacroiliac joint, is joint which connects the spine to the hip bone. And it won't go. I used to apply these things, but they were not working, because then I started doing research and I found out that 1% of what is applied goes through the skin. The natural barrier has been provided by nature. If everything goes through the skin, then you would be dead. So it doesn't allow anything to go in. And that is why I had to take oral NSAID. NSAID is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Common name is like diclofenac or brufen. But they cause injury to the kidney. So I was getting worried that I should not be taking this NSAID. And then started working that this is a major gap. Even doctors don't realize today, but if I show them that my formulation goes through 10 times, then they may get interested. So we made a formulation, and the QPS stands for quick penetrating solution. And it is so effective that within 20 minutes of application, you will get a pain relief which will last for 8 hours. And there's no burning sensation, no heating sensation. It's just like a cold solution. Apply it and you get the best of the results. Now we've taken it up on consumer promotion, because we can't just rely on doctors to prescribe it. There are a lot of other mechanisms happening in the doctor's chamber. So they don't always prescribe the best product. They prescribe the product where they get the best. So now we've gone on a consumer campaign, and the first year itself, we've got 32% growth. And now the second phase is going to be even more aggressive, because anybody who uses this, if you just look at the reviews on 1mg.com, you will see the kind of praise. I keep reading those reviews to know how much money to put in the advertisement. Because if you're getting overwhelmingly positive response, then no harm in spending. We even made a special package for this. You can see the bottle, and this is the only painkiller, topical painkiller, which is having a metered dose. So you don't have to put it with approximation. You can pump it out. Each pump will give 0.1 ml of solution. So just 0.4 ml, that is 400 milligram, produces the results. Whereas in case of creams and gels, you have to apply anywhere between 3 and 4 grams. So it works out economic for the patient as well. So again, it's why I told you that there is a gap in the market, and if we make this, then we can get a market share. So we got a national award for this from Technology Development Board. The packaging was unique. We got an award for excellence in packaging. So this is just what I told you, I don't want to repeat it. Inside out approach. Why, how, and what for the painless diclofenac or a very effective topical painkiller. And you have a topical painkiller which is effective, you will not take oral tablets. So your kidneys, the collateral damage is minimized. This was the award which we got for Dynapar AQ and national award from the Department of Pharma as well as award from Department of Scientific and Industrial Research. And we got several awards for quality as well. But this is the key sentence. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. If you're doing it for a greater purpose other than just making money, they buy it. Now I come to the employees part, because this golden circle is such a thing that you need a team of committed employees. So indispensable to chase the golden circle approach. Charles Taylor, he was hired by Wright brothers as a mechanic for repairing bicycles at their shop, played a significant role to make the dream of Wright brothers a reality. He designed the required engine for the first engine-driven flyer of Wright brothers. An important factor in the success of Wright brothers was their employee, Charles's contribution. Charles believed in the dream. So your employees have to share your dream. See, when we develop an innovation, there's a lot of frustration. If you are working on a particular drug delivery, it's like digging a tunnel without knowing whether there'll be light at the other end. You hit a block of stone, you start digging another way, third, fourth, and sometimes it fails. But if people are passionate and they believe in you, then they continue to strive and find out a solution. So he believed in the dream and purpose of Wright brothers, so he gave his blood, sweat, and tears to this project. That was the reason Charles was able to build a plane engine without even having a college degree. So this is another myth in India, that degree is what makes you. So for example, I didn't have a PhD till last year. And everybody used to ask me, introduce me as Dr. Ketan Patel. I had to tell them that I am not a doctorate. They would refuse to be research kaita karo tame, jo degree na hoy to. It's a fact. So in fact, I had also, we run a charity for encouraging innovation in the name of my father. We give away Farm Innova Awards to the best researchers at post-graduation and PhD in 5 disciplines of pharma. So we invite good speakers every year. So last time, just before COVID, we had called Naran Murthy. And while I was sitting and talking with him, he suddenly asked me, from which US university have you done your PhD? So I said, no, from here. Here? What do you mean by here? I said, Ahmedabad. So our people discount our own education, whereas we have the finest education. Why else are our students excelling when they go there? Because the foundations in schools and colleges is tremendous. So key employees at Troika have contributed to our success. It has its own share of employees who hold deep conviction about the business philosophy of the company. They have given their blood, sweat, and tears to achieve the objectives and mission of Troika. They have challenged the competition and have made the impossible possible. Concluding point is, whenever you promote an innovation or a superior quality product, always promote it in the context of why. The said product will be extremely beneficial to the patients or to your customer, whosoever. To do this with conviction, you must know your product very well, and you must also know the competitor's weakness as well as a consumer's mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ketan bhai. Parag bhai, I'll just make one small announcement before. So there is room number 15 where we have a live streaming also. કારણ કે હવે એવું ના થાય કે ઉન્મેશ ભાઈ બેઠેલા લોકોની ખુરશીઓ લઈ આવે. Right. So in case for the people who are standing, you have the room number 15 also where you can look at it. Thank you, Ketan bhai. I think absolutely insightful and so much to take home for all of us. Parag bhai, over to you. I would not take time in between. Thank you.
It's always difficult to be the last speaker, and today evening It's almost going to be impossible to speak after very senior people and leaders who I have always looked up to. Yeah. So Achal Bhai and Dr. Ketan Bhai have spoke very well on their successes. I have thought little differently when I spoke with you, sir. That let me put my learnings on the PPT on how MSMEs can benefit by a different way of thinking, because MSMEs are always caught in between too many things. Achal Bhai spoke very well about advertising, marketing being a raw material cost, and Ketan Bhai spoke very well about long new product launch cycles, etc. So I'm going to start by speaking on the business part as to which business and what do customers look for. I believe customers look at value more than anything else. So whatever products and services that you make for your customers, it should be worthy of their time, energy, and money. For customers to look at value, I believe that what is the benefit is more important than the cost. A lot of times I see a lot of MSMEs caught in between a cost proposition rather than a value proposition. So I believe if companies and people look at the benefits, then customers eventually will look at value in the cost. So in short, benefits and cost are the two key components of customer value. Creating value for customer is important because it can increase your brand's reputation, profits, and success. For example, Waghbakri's tea's value is its unique blend. In India, tea, I must tell you, tea, ever since the British founded tea, has been selling in the public auction systems. So we buy tea from now over 14,000 tea gardens in India, almost all gardens in Sri Lanka and Africa, and all the tea, because the British set up a very nice price discovery mechanism, is bought by people in a public auction system, which everyone can see at what price who is buying which tea. So it's a very wonderful concept set up by the British. One of the few things that the British did right. So what makes Waghbakri special? I think the unique blend, which always comes out, that wherever we drink the tea, irrespective of the tea season or an off season, or us making tea in the house, outside, the taste remains the same. So the uniqueness in our case is the blend. What you think a customer wants is very important, because from there you can start winning, and it's something that will help you in the long term. I am very happy to say that very recently, post COVID, the government of India, through its Indian Statistical Institute, they did a research on how much trust every brand in every category has of the consumers. So this is not something on sales or on price or anything. It is just something on trust. And second year since COVID, we have come out as the most trusted brand of the nation. So this is very encouraging. It fuels passion. It helps us stretch ourselves, and it is something that every consumer knows that if I have to buy a brand and if I have to trust a brand, it is only one brand that comes to my mind first. Again, the simple message to all the MSMEs present over here is that it is always quality that comes over price. Yes, the general perception is that whatever is cheaper will sell more, but in reality, the repeat sales comes only of a product which is having a good price proposition instead of a heavy discount. I don't want to name brands or chains, but if you go shopping, you will see so many chains shut down because they were selling only on price, and they were thinking that eventually we will get value, but because of poor quality, they could not get the value and they ran out of business. I meet so many people in our trade, in the foods business, where they say that let's give a discount and the sales will increase. And we always believe that I'm the fourth generation of the business, and I believe that giving a discount is the fastest way to kill a trust that the consumers have put in you, and it is the uniqueness of the product that will bring the customer backs. So again, quality is of paramount factor, and you can compromise on anything, but the day you start compromising on quality, it's sure shot that you're going to start losing customers. Achal bhai said something very unique about our unique brand name. Thank you. And it is very important that people understand what you stand for. Very recently, I'm doing an online course of Harvard, and we are all discussing as to what is very important, because before COVID, everyone was thinking like in every room, every corner, you would say, what is the vision statement? What is the mission statement of the company? Now a new thing has evolved, which is called what is the purpose statement? Why are we doing things that we are doing, and how do we get people with us who also believe in the purpose, and that is why they are doing it. So it's very important. Again, if you go wrong and if you break the trust of consumer, every uh, dissatisfied customer will tell at least 30 other customers that why I am dissatisfied. We run a very unique concept of tea lounges, and we get a lot of satisfied customers, and we are engaged with most of the digital platforms, etc. But we track dissatisfied customers very closely. If someone finds that the tea served to them might be not of even the right temperature, they don't hasten in just airlifting it on their Instagram page or something that I wish I can get the right temperature. And customers like when companies interact directly with them, they feel special. I believe research is also very important. When we were starting out in finding we are a very Indian company, so we would love to work with Indian-based agencies. Everything we do, we are very Indian. So we were starting out many years back. I remember, Achal, we had given you a call. We were starting out in finding a good design agency in India, and we found a lady who is based out of Pune, and we said that who do you work with? And she was from NID, and her husband, they had just gone together and started. So they said that we might work with Symphony because we have met Achal by twice or thrice, and then we might work with you. So from that day to now, they are one of the global leaders in design as a subject, and all our brands, they are customer researched. The designs, the blends, everything comes out of research. So there is no shortcut to success. Constantly going back to customers and asking them about what do you think about this always helps. Audience segmentation is also very important. There was a time in every research there used to come that we have one tea brand in our cupboard in the kitchen, and that's it. I buy the tea, and my family loves the tea, and they love the way I make the tea. Now it's very different. In the last 10 years, one brand became 5 brands. Now there are up to 15 brands that come in the kitchen, and all are variants of different tea brands. So you have someone who drinks only green tea, someone who has a problem with XYZ, so they drink green tea with chamomile to have a good night's sleep. Someone wants to have the first cup of tea made by themselves. You'll be surprised that 50% of male respondents, they actually make the first cup of tea early in the morning by themselves. It's only the second cup of tea that they want to share even with their wife. So people have so much expectations from tea that if I wake up and make tea my way, my day would get good, and then maybe a second cup of tea with the wife and the family happens. So customers are very sure of what they want, and they will pick and choose. Again, we launch new products like our spice tea, where we have very unique advantage of us being the only company blending 7 Indian spices with tea. People actually globally, it's a bestseller since last 5 years now, and people like I heard earlier that people want to copy. So Unilever is one of our biggest customer competitors, and they have actually post COVID sold off all their businesses outside India to a PE firm. So they actually now they don't own this tea. So all their people come to us and say that while we were working with Unilever, we couldn't ask you or we couldn't get the right formula. So they are all friends, very senior people. They say we want the formula. We want to just understand, what is that you do special. So this gives us a kick that a Unilever with more than hundreds of people in their R&D department who understand foods. They're based out of Netherlands. They have the best access to research in the world. And when a small company like us, we make a unique product and customers accept it and make it a global leader, it really is very it's a proud moment for all of us. Also, value is something that customers decide. A lot of times, I believe manufacturers or sellers decide that customer will not give beyond this as a price. But I don't agree. If you research your product well, if you do a proper hygiene check with the customers, if the packaging is good, then I think leave it to the customer to look at value rather than you looking at value on behalf of the customers. We have a large range of green teas which now are trending everywhere. Some teas help in digestion, some teas help in rejuvenation, some teas increase your immunity. These are all things which people are using, and people want it. There is a big demand. Second thing, in any business, like in our daily life, technology is not a enemy. It's actually an ally. A lot of people don't understand technology, so they say that money technology fauti nahi, I will sell it conventionally. But I believe it is the cheapest way to reach out to your customers. It's the most innovative tool. There are new products launching every day, every month, and people embrace when we do research, people change their platforms every 6 months, and people are happy with the new platform. The moment something else comes up, they again change it. They take 6 months to change, but after 6 months they have forgotten what's there. So I believe you should track customers from their choices. Information is so fast. There was a time wherein we could not get any information after even 6 months of launching a new product. Today, after 6 days, we have a first trend, second trend, and in a month's time, we know what's happening where. And we get data from places like B2C sites, e-commerce sites, modern trade, general trade. Our own team of people have their own handheld devices. So it's so fast that sometimes we wonder that how large our data analyze team has to be. We every 10 years look at what's relevant and what's not relevant now. And I believe today companies like us are quickly building one of the largest data analyze teams, because data is coming so fast, and every time you take a month to analyze the data, the trends have changed. Again, collecting consumers' opinions is so important that then there is no substitute for you to analyze and interpret it as to what they actually mean. Customers love when brands interact with them on social media, and especially new products, customers want to give an opinion. In India, thankfully, we have so many people and everyone has an opinion. So if you ask someone, they will at least give you 3 different ways of saying the same thing. So that's wonderful. Again, in the market space, you need to have a share of mind. There was a time when we used to say share of voice, share of shelf. Now we have come to a point that I need to be in the mindset of people. Over many years, like Achal Bhai said, advertising, marketing has evolved, but there are certain principles that have remained constant. First is you need to have a unique product. We can't make a substitute product and say that I am better than the other product, because customers is already satisfied with the existing product. Again, just posting content is not advertising. Everyone has to advertise, but how do you engage with your customer is where you need to identify. A lot of times people start advertising when the product is not even available, in anticipation that people will ask and then we will make it available. It doesn't work that way. People just look at a ad or something that they like, they go to a shop. If it's not available, they're going to forget about it. So it's very important that distribution needs to be there. I'm going to share a very recent TVC about, we have just tied up with a master chef who himself has the highest number of more than 13 million followers, and he's trending like anything in India and overseas. His success was during the most difficult period, which is the COVID period. And he made a kitchen at the top of his house, and we have tied up with him for our spice teas, and we are right now digitally trending at number 3 and 4 on YouTube, thanks to our product and the kind of advertising we have done. So let me just give you a quick view of that.
मैंने फैन से पूछा था कि कौन से वेलनेस ड्रिंक की रेसिपी जानना चाहेंगे, एंड दे चोज मसाला चाय.
अब दिल तो इंडियन है जी, चलो हमें इनकी कोई जरूरत नहीं है, मैं सारे इंग्रेडिएंट्स यहाँ हैं। अदरक, इलायची, लौंग, दालचीनी, जायफल, काली मिर्च और पिपरमिंट, 7 मसालों की गुडनेस जो बढ़ाए आपकी वेलनेस।
परफेक्ट मसाला चाय।
कोई भी बना पाए।
This is
Wasmati
real life
spicy.
wife, you know. So you have to be honest to customers, you have to be genuine. And when we researched, we felt a need that people find that, every time we make masala tea, either two masalas are missing or the tea is not the same. So it's been a 6 years journey. And Dr. Sahib, you will be surprised. Even people like us spend a lot on R&D. I have a full-fledged NABL certified lab. I recruit scientists. I work with them. My team gives me names of chemicals which they need to have tested. We export to more than 60 countries. Every country has a different set of protocols, pesticides that can be used. Yeah, but FSSI is still better. You go and work with European countries. You go and work with American people. Yeah, so a lot of brands, we are very popular as a brand, but the country has their own rules and we can't change them. So when we do packaging, for example, the Middle East countries don't want to put a beautiful female on the pack. It's banned. Okay. Although they have the most beautiful females, and they understand this subject better than all of us. But it's banned by the law. Whereas in other countries, they want to see a local female drinking tea. So that's packaging. Also, India has a big issue regarding dairy with Europe. The Scandinavian countries, their main product is dairy, and India does not allow imports of dairies. So one day we discovered our containers started being rejected by the EU, and especially Sweden, where one of our smallest markets, but a good market. So we asked them what happened. He said, we just discovered that in your instant tea you have a dairy component. So how can we allow you when your country is not allowing? I said, very good. I don't want to come in between countries. But then, we had a sit down, we had a discussion, and and they started rejecting all the products. So anyone who sells instant gulab jambu started rejection, anything. So Sweden thought that, we are the torch bearers of the world and we have to teach India a lesson, that if you don't allow us, how can you allow us? Very good. So we sat with our team, and I was surprised at the solution we got. Just like we have the Amul dairy in India, the largest cooperative dairy in Europe sits in Poland. So our people went there, they spoke with them, and we started importing from Poland. And government had allowed us, because we engaged so much with the government, that if you want to import to re-export, that is allowed, but import to sell in India is not allowed. So today we are one of the largest players in all the Scandinavian countries. Thanks to now we have a Polish milk powder in our product. But all these things are quite challenging and quite disruptive. So again, there is no shortcut without people. Team members are our real brand ambassadors, and you have to have the right set of people. We call them human capital. Our people think that they are our family, and it is the truth that most of the people who join us actually retire with us, and our retirement age is actually 58, but most of them work up till 65 because they are so fit and so passionate about what they do. The right team will be able to help your business grow and achieve its goals. I would advise the MSME sector. I meet a lot of people in the startup space, etc., and they give a lot of emphasis on the idea, but lot of less emphasis on execution of the idea via professionals. I believe professionals in India are the best in the world, and if you invest in human capital, they are going to give back a lot more than what you have given them. Also, we have a very in-depth hand-holding process. So anyone who joins us, for the first 6 months, they are trained as to what is the Wagh Bakri way, how do you greet people, how do you work with your colleagues. And a lot of people, they come to us after 20-30 years of working in multinationals or different background companies. So they also enjoy this journey. For the first 6 months, we don't expect anything from them. We just expect, why don't you gel together, why don't you understand the secret of the brand, etc. So it's very nice. And the best publicity is mouth publicity, irrespective of what anyone will tell you. if you have one satisfied customer, or if your salesmen are properly trained and they send the message to the shopkeeper and to the customer, they would tell it to 10 other people. Also, I would not like to forget about failure. We have failed a lot of times. One of my most passionate failures has been very recent, in the last 10 years. Success with failure is luck. Like, the first failure has to be like I was unlucky, but luck can also run out. So we learned from the experience, and we were success story. When I came back from the US after doing my MBA, I discovered in India people uh, don't look at tea the way people look at coffee in the United States. Like, there was always a Starbucks, etc., and all our teas were under the neem tree, and the people were spending 5 rupees, 10 rupees maximum for a cup of tea. So there was no right ambience. So we discussed with our family, and we were finding it difficult in our new market, Rajasthan, at that time. So then we decided that let's open our first tea lounge in Rajasthan, and let's see how people react. It was a thumping failure. I am thankful to everyone at that time who helped me run it for 3 years. Everything that I learned today is because of that failure. Everything from real estate, which we never knew, to how to engage with customers, how to engage with vendors. Now, after that failure, we have now 50 launches, and now we are growing so fast that in the next 3 years we are going to have 300 more launches. So I think failure is a great guru. Anytime you walk into any of our tea lounges, you will see what I mean. A lot of critics are calling it the next Starbucks of tea, but I am holding back. And lastly, I would like to end my lecture with a film which we made very recently to show the power of trust and how Wagh Bakri has become a household name across 23 states in India.
Yeah, Mr. Chang. It's 7 in the morning here. No, sir, I'll mail it to you by this afternoon.
साहब दीदी आपके लिए छोड़कर गई है.
Yeah, yes, sir. No, sir, the budget is also approved. Yeah, we got the clearance. Right.
हेलो.
I'll call you back.
मुझे लगा आपको तो कभी सुनने की फुर्सत मिलेगी नहीं, इसलिए मैंने सोचा आपके हैंडीकैम से ही बात कर लेती हूँ. मुझे आज भी वो दिन अच्छे से याद है जब आप मुझे देखने बरेली आए थे. मुझे अभी तक ताज्जुब होता है कि मेरे सारे हाई फाई कजिन्स में से आपने मेरी जैसी टूटी फूटी अंग्रेजी बोलने वाली लड़की को कैसे पसंद किया. आपको याद है आपने मजाक में एक बार कह दिया था, मैडम मेरे साथ बाइक पर बैठना है तो वेट लूज करना पड़ेगा. उस दिन के बाद शादी तक मैं हर रोज गंगानगर ब्रिज के 6 चक्कर लगाती थी. ऐसी कई बातें हैं जो आपको बताना चाहती थी, पर शादी के बाद वक्त ही कहाँ था आपके पास सुनने का. हनीमून के दूसरे ही दिन मुझे पता चल गया था कि चाय के बिना आपके दिन की शुरुआत ही नहीं होती. उस दिन मैंने सिर्फ चाय बनाना ही नहीं, आपको कंपनी देने के लिए चाय पीना भी सीख लिया. शायद आपको ये पता नहीं होगा, लेकिन उस दिन से पहले मैंने कभी चाय का एक घूंट भी नहीं पिया था. उस दिन के बाद आप लैपटॉप में टाइप करते रहे और मैं उसके साथ में चाय के कप रखती रही. आपको पता भी नहीं चलता था, लेकिन कई बार चाय ठंडी पड़ जाती थी और मैं फिर से चाय बना कर लाती थी. दिन ब दिन मुझे महसूस होने लगा है कि चाय के साथ हमारे रिश्ते की गर्माहट भी कम हो रही है. मैं जा रही हूँ. सिर्फ इतना बताना चाहती हूँ कि चाय पत्ती किचन की बीच वाली अलमारी में रखी हुई है. अब खुद ही बनाना सीख लो. और अगर चाय ठंडी पड़ जाए तो माइक्रोवेव में गर्म कर लेना. कैसे आना हुआ?
तुम्हारे हाथ की बनी एक कप चाय पीनी थी.
वक्त की बर्फ में जमे पड़े ये रिश्तों को पिघला, धीमी आंच की धूप में सेको, झप्पी की गर्माहट भर के प्यालों से नहलाओ. झप्पी की गर्माहट से तुम रिश्तों को नहलाओ। यादों के बागानों से चुन चुन के तुम तोड़ो, मुरझाए रिश्तों की पत्ती पानी डाल के खूब झंझोड़ो। सोए से सैलाब को तुम चम्मच डाल घुमेड़ो, जमे हुए लम्हों की मिश्री चूर चूर कर घोलो। हौले हौले रिश्तों को बस चुटकी भर उबालो, बीते कल की भाप चटक के रिश्तों को नहलाओ। झप्पी की गर्माहट भर के प्यालों से नहलाओ, झप्पी की गर्माहट से तुम रिश्तों को
एक कप और हो जाए। मेरे हाथ की वाघ बकरी चाय रिश्तों में गर्माहट लाए, हमेशा रिश्ते बनाए।
Thank you. So, in all our communication, you will see a consistency of relationship, and we have taken it up as a personal challenge. As to today's day and age, everyone is so preoccupied with their Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts, etc. Even while eating, they are not giving time to family. So we are going to create this space and this warmth that, let us show a reflection of real life to people of what is happening. So once again, thank you for patiently hearing, and thank you AMA and Dr. Jaimin Bhai especially for calling.
Yeah. Thank you, Parag Bhai. And certainly, very surprising, Parag Bhai, that 50% of the male make the first morning tea. I'm sure he has not done the survey for the guys who are yet to get married. After marriage, this happens. Right? But yes, answer is this certainly surprising. That's okay. And the lounges, we are having a physical formal meeting day after tomorrow at one of his lounge. Yeah, so I think the lounge is certainly a lot of innovations. They're going to the next level that you have. I think we will open up for the Q&As, but before that, couple of points that I could get from three speakers. Like Achal, I have some to sum up also, but these were the three quotations which I came to. Like Steve Jobs, you said that customers do not know what they want, what she wants. So you have to. There's a customer education one, that you will have to figure out what the customer wants, it because that customer itself does not know. Of course, Parag Bhai said quality over the price, and value is where you build the trust. But important thing came in additionally was that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So such an important that why, how, what, and how formula that you get. And adding to that I remember when you spoke about human capital or HR, Henry Ford advertised once in the newspaper. He writes that I am looking for a lot of people who do not know what cannot be done. So innovation as a so that you cannot say he was innovating the V8 engine at that time, and he wanted engineers who cannot say that this cannot be done, because most of his engineers are already given up. We cannot do it, and he did it. So very interesting. Of course, 376 patents. Did you say? Now, I was actually trying to get closer to the screen, and that 376 payments, and suddenly a round of applause for something. And the gentleman next to him, not in a drug industry, has got 30 plus. Achal bhai, 30 plus patents to Symphony. More than 500 IPs. So we can imagine this innovation as a journey is something that you do constantly do something new, and certainly thinking of tomorrow all the time. And of course, hundreds of patents, trademarks, Rashesh bhai, at Wagh Bakri. Hundreds and hundreds of them. In the evening also, you remember a good morning tea. That's how it happens at the tea. So, but yes, we'll open up for some questions that we have, and then we. Maybe you might have to speak a little louder. The microphone can. Padmin, after you. So, if at all. If required, I'll repeat your question. Yeah.
Thank you for the overview of you. Ketan, I would like to ask. I can, we are buddies, by the way, and I am the director of the board of Protocol. I have seen that what he described. I have actually seen it. His struggle and his winning part of it. No, in pharmaceutical, as you very well explained, there are two consumers, so to say. There is a doctor who is a reference person, and there is a consumer. Okay, somebody prescribes and somebody consumes. Now the consumers today may be you, but a doctor is something else. And here, with what he did not talk about, one very important innovation is I would like you to share and say how you differentiate between the two, how you manage. Naso B12, I am saying. Prakash has come out with a nasal spray for vitamin B12. It is also one of the breakthrough innovation. So I just want to know, as a SME, when somebody has to deal with more than one kind of customer, or pharmaceutical or some reference leaders, doctor and consumer both, and the product is a prescriber or product would be OTC, directly ले सकते हैं ऐसा product. So in that case, how do you manage? If you can give it with the example of this vitamin B12 spray, that would be even more interesting to all. Thank you.
Actually, as I mentioned, niche marketing is the best approach for SME because SMEs have a resource crunch in terms of money, so advertisement budgets are also limited. And therefore, you have to search out for niche where there is one homogeneous kind of a customer. So B12 is definitely not a niche product because B12 deficiency in India is about 64% of the population. And that is because although B12 itself was invented in 1952, the tablets and the injections, absorption of B12 from tablets is very unpredictable and very slow. So you take a B12 tablet for 2 months, then your levels may crawl up to 400 picograms. So that is again the why. Why should a patient not get B12 increase of B12 very fast? Injections give an immediate increase, but the course is 10 days, given on alternate days, so 10 visits to the clinic, and very painful. So patients give way in between. The cause of deficiency is our diets, overcooked meals, and we don't eat non-vegetarian. Even if the non-vegetarian eaters, the food is cooked so with so much of oil and heat that B12 perishes. So the only short way is to have an injection. So that's why we experimented with, first we experimented sublingual, below the tongue. And we worked on it for 2-3 years, but that didn't work. The absorption was not satisfactory. Then we started working on the nasal. And the nasal B12 corrects your B12 levels with the first dose. It works so fast. So you just take, we have to take first day and then alternate day 6 doses. So that will be 2 weeks. And then once a month. If you continue, the levels will never go below 6%. So, but we suffered a setback the moment we launched it. COVID happened. So our marketing teams could not approach the doctors. Now it's been taken upon a full-fledged campaign. It will become a very big brand. Not only in India, but B12 deficiency is happening all across the globe. Even in the countries where non-vegetarian food is consumed because of the junk food consumption is not nutritionally rich food. So we are going to, and we have a global patent on that. So we're going all out now and we'll make it a huge brand.
Yeah, put that, please.
Actually, we make packaging machinery and we export to over 40 countries. I don't have a question. I just want to tell you that today you changed my perspective about advertisement. Because I always used to consider as an expense and raw material is the right word. So I thank you.
My question is to Ajulji. I'm Shailesh Thakkar and we are small scale manufacturing electrical vehicles. And we are really facing a problem, 2 or 3 sort of things. First is we are based on the incentive that subsidy that government is giving, which is not, they are not giving. Finally, the JEDA, FAME, all the subsidy we are not getting. And when we are having certain USPs, but we are competing with Arthur and all. So when we pass on the benefit to the consumer, we don't get subsidies. And we have certain USPs we are having, like bike type look, but we are not in position to really market it properly. So in such cases, what we should do, because the subsidies that they are giving is substantial. When we pass on, it's a margin is gone away if the government doesn't give. And if we don't give, then again we are not getting sales. So in such cases, what we should do?
Again, I'm no expert, but I think that electric vehicle is more of a lifestyle product. So I think just passing on additional discounts is probably not the answer. I think the product has.
But to survive and compete, so people ask for, as an Indian consumer, though we are having US, but they ask for comparative studies. We know that our USP is compared to petrol is economical, but that's okay. But when compared to the modern and all, they ask the cheaper and yes, are very mega, something of that sort. So in such case, what can be the innovation in market?
In your product, I've read that Ola is putting up this huge facility in Karnataka. They'll make some million units and all. So I think they are. You will not be able to compete with them in price because they have the economies of scale.
Yes, yes. So that's here comes a very small scale. How to innovate? And I mean, what way to pierce, this market? Because we are not in economies of scale.
So then you have to discover something unique about your product. Something which nobody else has. I don't know what it could be in your category, but you have to discover something which is truly unique to you and which differentiates your product from the other products which are available. And I think you can only capitalize on your uniqueness. You cannot compete on economies of scale. I assume you don't have a huge brand name, right? So,
we don't.
So and again, companies like TVS, Bajaj, Hero, all of them are into the EV space. So how do you? It's a very, very crowded industry. You have the brand leaders there, like Bajaj, TVS, and Hero, and then you will also have the companies with economies of scale like Ola. So you are somewhere,
So why I am very relevant to you, because you are also competing with air conditioners and the large brand, and you work out something.
You have to find that wall-mounted air cooler. That was the uniqueness, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So that's what.
So we developed something unique out of that, and that is really what launched the company. I think you also have to discover something, maybe some invest in technology or innovation, some flights of imagination you will have to use to see if you can discover something which is truly unique.
Fine.
Which again, unique not for the sake of unique, but it has to be something which the consumers could possibly want.
That should be. I think product might be, but the consumer penetration, punchline and all.
Yes.
Right.
Do you have a question for Radia, sir? I understand that you are also in the space of the B2B. I have seen your wonderful industrial cooling systems at Mitsubishi, I think it was Dahej or Hazira. And in Gujarat is a hot state where a lot of industries can go for this cooling because they have high ceilings. Not pharma, I mean engineering. Can you throw a little bit more light on industrial cooling?
So because we are sort of in this niche of air cooling, we decided to sort of expand it from just the coolers for homes or for residential applications to even industrial and commercial applications. So the way we redefined our business was that we are in the evaporative air cooling space and every application of that technology and everywhere in the world wherever it is possible. So we've diversified geographically and we've also diversified applications. So these are again air coolers which are installed outside, very much like industrial or central air conditioning, and the air is ducted to the space. And the idea is again, the why of our business, which I probably didn't talk about, but which Ketan Bhai's talk sort of triggered in me. The why of our business is democratizing comfort. We believe that comfort is not the prerogative of only those who can afford air conditioners. Comfort is something, and especially in countries like India, comfort is something is a given, should be a right. In fact, in countries like China, every factory has to be thermally controlled, because if the indoor temperatures go over a certain level, you have to give a hardship allowance. So the similar thing exists in countries in the Middle East and all. So thermal comfort or environmental comfort should be a right, you know. And so our why is to democratize comfort. And Indian factories, you go to most factories, Indian factories are hot. They are hot as hell. You know, there is nothing. There is a boiler, there is machinery generating heat, and this poor worker is working there 8 hours under a tin shed, and there is the sun beating down on the shed. You know, it is indoor temperature could be 60 degrees, but the poor guy has to work there, all his life, which is inhuman in my, in my belief. So we have solutions for those applications, for every possible sort of requirement. You know. So which is why we have expanded not only from coolers from homes, which we began with, to coolers for outdoor spaces, commercial applications, industrial applications. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'll just come this side so that this will. So good evening. My name is Anurag. So I have this. So I'm not an SME owner. I'm more of a consultant. And what I feel is a problem is that a lot of SMEs, when we talk on various forums and I meet people, they're not able to. And they always say, Ahmedabad mein to 100 crore tak bhi pahunch jayenge, ho jayega. We'll not be able to move big. I'm having a problem convincing them how to think become global leaders in probably 1,000 crore and much more bigger sizes of companies, which I don't see as a conviction. And of course, one thing I say is SOP is not being implemented in organizations is a big issue there. This is my belief. We kind of lack in that implementation of SOPs. So, some view from any one of you, please. Thank you.
My belief is that that vision and all of that, thinking big and all of that is something which evolved. So when we started off, and it started off with a seed capital of 1 lakh which I had borrowed from my father. At that time, there was no grand visions. You know, telling what we did in that first year, turnover of some 30-40 lakhs itself was great. So the vision is not something. We don't start off with some huge vision of changing the world. You know, you sort of do it a step at a time. You know, as you sort of go forward, you know, your vision expands or your vision develops and evolves. And at times, you have to change course. So I think this is an evolving thing. You know, I don't think.
So in that, how much should following of SOP etc. like discipline in terms of work? For example, when I visit a couple of factories, I see 5S in manufacturing not being implemented today. People don't know 5S. Sometimes they know, but they don't implement. Sometimes they don't implement it properly. So that discipline part, will that be an important part in convincing people on